I exposed my stepsister for stealing my fiancé. Now her marriage is ruined, and my parents have disowned me. I got married 2 weeks ago. It was a big day for me, something I had worked hard to plan. I took care of every single detail myself, from the flowers to the music, and it paid off. Everyone kept telling me how beautiful and perfect the whole event was. It felt good to know my effort was appreciated. But my stepsister could not handle it. She has always had an issue with me, always finding ways to tear me down. This time, she started telling everyone that I had stolen my wedding ideas from her. It was ridiculous. I had not copied a single thing from her, but that did not stop her from spreading lies. It annoyed me, but I was not shocked. She has been jealous of me for as long as I can remember. Some of my relatives, the ones who loved to gossip, started asking if there was any truth to what she was saying. It was frustrating to have to defend myself over something I did not do. But that is how it always was with her. She has spent years twisting stories to make herself look better at my expense. And honestly, I had enough of it. My mother married her father when we were both 16. From the start, we never got along. I actually tried to be nice to her in the beginning, but she was never interested. Instead, she turned everything into a competition. It was exhausting. Back in high school, she started a rumor that I had hit on her boyfriend. It was complete nonsense, but people believed it. She did it just to get revenge on me because I had made the cheerleading team and she had not. For almost a month, girls in school treated me like an outcast. They whispered behind my back, laughed at me, and made my life miserable. That is the kind of person my stepsister is. For years, I let her behavior slide. I knew she was only trying to get under my skin, and if I reacted, she would win. But this time, I could not ignore it. I had spent months putting my wedding together. She was not going to swoop in and make it look like I had stolen anything from her. I will admit, it was petty, but I called her. I told her to stop lying because she knew she was making things up. Instead of backing down, she just laughed in my face. She told me I was pathetic and then hung up. That was it for me. I decided that if she wanted to play dirty, I was not going to hold back anymore. I was going to expose the truth about her and her husband to the whole family. They needed to know what kind of people they really were. See, her husband? He used to be my boyfriend. When I was 23, I was still living at home, saving up to move out. That was when I met him at work. I fell for him fast, and he seemed to feel the same way. But looking back, there were warning signs. He insisted on keeping our relationship a secret. He did not want me telling anyone outside of work that we were together. At the time, I brushed it off. But now, I know that should have been my first clue. After 2 months of dating, I brought him home to meet my parents. Of course, that meant my stepsister met him too. I did not notice it then, but she was acting different around him. She was too flirty, too playful. Still, I never thought for a second that he would betray me like that. But that was when they started texting behind my back. I was clueless. I kept dating him, falling deeper in love. After almost a year together, I decided I wanted to marry him. I was not the type to sit around waiting, so I took the leap and proposed to him myself. I planned everything, a romantic dinner at a fancy restaurant. I thought it was going to be the perfect night. Instead, when I asked him to marry me, he hesitated. He said he needed time to think about it. I wish he had just told me the truth right then and there. But he did not. He kept leading me on for 3 more months, pretending everything was fine. All the while, he was sneaking around with my stepsister. I was disappointed when he turned down my proposal, but I convinced myself that he just needed more time. I stayed with him, hoping he would change his mind. Then, 3 months later, he sat me down and confessed everything. He told me he was in love with my stepsister. He wanted to be with her, not me. And as if that was not enough, he told me she was 3 months pregnant. She was going to start showing soon, which meant they needed to get married right away. I lost it. I confronted her, screaming, crying. But our parents got involved, and instead of holding them accountable, they told me to keep quiet. My stepfather was well known, and they did not want a scandal ruining his image. I had no choice. I was still living under their roof, so I had to do what they said. They had a small wedding in the backyard, just a handful of people invited. I, of course, did not go. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel for the week, drinking myself numb. A few weeks later, I had finally saved enough to move out. But that did not fix everything. I fell into a deep depression. I quit my job. I barely ate. I barely slept. I did not want to do anything. The only person who did not give up on me was my best friend. He had been my friend since high school. He was always the funny guy, the one who made people laugh. I had never seen him as anything more than a friend. But he was the only one who showed up for me. While everyone else moved on with their lives, he found out where I was living and showed up at my door. He stayed. Even when I pushed him away, he stayed. He made sure I ate, made sure I got out of bed. He even covered my bills because I had no money. I do not know what I would have done without him. After a while, I told him everything. I told him about my ex, about my stepsister. He listened. He never judged me. We never had an official moment where we became a couple. He just moved in, and we never talked about it. To this day, we joke about how he never even asked me out. And that was my life. Until I decided I had stayed silent long enough. I told my husband what I was thinking. That it was time for everyone to know the truth. He was completely on board. He said that after everything they had put me through, I had every right to speak up. So, I made a plan. A few days ago, I invited my entire family over. I made sure to be extra sweet to my stepsister so she would not suspect anything. She fell for it completely. When everyone arrived, I got straight to the point. I started with her lies about my wedding. I reminded her that she never even had a real wedding. Some people laughed. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others had no idea what was coming. Then, I went for the truth. I told everyone that while she was so busy accusing me of stealing her wedding ideas, she had actually stolen something from me, my fiancé. Gasps. Stunned silence. My parents turned red. My ex sat there looking like he wanted to disappear. I laid it all out. I told them everything. By the time I finished, you could hear a pin drop. Then, my stepsister jumped up and ran out of the house. Her husband followed after her. Slowly, the rest of the guests left too. The last ones to go were my parents. Furious, they demanded that I apologize. I refused. They said I had humiliated my stepsister. I told them she had humiliated me first. My husband backed me up. He even called them out for being terrible parents. That was 4 days ago. I have not spoken to any of them since. And from what I hear, the rest of the family has cut my stepsister off completely. She is miserable. My mother sent me a message today, saying she hopes I am happy now that I ruined my stepsister's life. Honestly? I do not feel bad at all. Update 1. My mother is still furious about what I did, blaming me for ruining my stepsister's life. She actually said those exact words, as if I should feel guilty for exposing the truth. For days, she has been texting me, demanding that I tell the family I made everything up, that it was all just some jealous revenge scheme against my stepsister. She claims my stepsister and her husband are deeply hurt by my actions and are thinking about cutting me off. Which is laughable, considering we do not speak to each other anyway. Outside of family events where we have to play nice, she and I have never had any kind of relationship. The only reason she was even at my wedding was because my mother forced me to invite her. She thought it would look bad if I left her out. I have no idea why my mother thinks I owe her or my stepsister an apology. At first, I was upset that she took my stepsister's side again. But honestly, this is nothing new. I told my husband about the whole situation, and he gave me the best advice: just ignore them. Let them deal with the consequences of their own actions. And that is exactly what I am going to do. I am done. Update 2. 2 days later, I finally made a decision that I should have made a long time ago. I blocked all of them. And the relief I felt afterward was instant. I had no idea how much this had been weighing on me until I cut them out of my life completely. For years, my mother forced me to put on a fake smile, pretend to get along with my stepsister, all to keep up appearances. It was never about what I wanted, it was always about making sure people did not think she and my stepfather had failed as parents. But the truth is, they did fail. They failed to raise my stepsister to be a decent person. They let her get away with everything while I was always the one expected to stay quiet, to keep the peace. Not anymore. I blocked them all, thinking that would be the end of it. Then last night, my mother showed up at my house. She looked disappointed, like I had somehow let her down. I did not say a word to her. For 5 long minutes, we sat in silence before she finally spoke. She told me I had hurt the family with my actions. That I had caused damage that could not be undone. I cut her off right there. I told her that as far as I was concerned, there was no family, not for me, at least. After she married my stepfather, it became clear who she favored. My stepsister was forgiven for everything, but the same rules never applied to me. I told her exactly how much she had hurt me over the years. How she always took my stepsister's side, no matter what she did. How I was done playing along. She got upset and tried to explain herself. She said that after she and my father separated, I reminded her too much of him. That is why she started to distance herself. Which was the worst excuse I had ever heard. Of course, I reminded her of my father, I was his daughter. But that was no reason to push me aside, to treat me like I did not matter. I told her that I might be able to understand her feelings, but that did not mean I could forgive her so easily. I needed time. But no matter how much time passed, I was not going to apologize to my stepsister. She needed to understand that I meant it. She left looking upset, but that was not my problem anymore. That was yesterday. I unblocked her, but I have no plans to reach out. And she has not tried to contact me either. Update 3. It has been a week since I last spoke to my mother, and she has not reached out again. Which tells me exactly what I needed to know. She is not sorry. And that is fine. I have accepted the fact that she will always choose my stepsister over me. There is nothing I can do to change that. But my stepsister? She is still not done causing trouble. She has been going around telling every relative who will listen that her husband only cheated on me because I was a crazy, toxic mess, and he found peace with her instead. Update 3, continued. She has even gone as far as telling people that I manipulated my ex into staying with me, that every time he tried to break up, I forced him to stay. She claims that I pressured him into marriage even though he told me he was not ready, and that is why he cheated. All complete lies. But the worst part? Some people are starting to believe her. My relatives are now split, some of them are siding with her, convinced that I must have done something to drive him away. She has always been a good liar, and she knows exactly what to say to make people feel sorry for her. Luckily, I have one cousin who has been keeping me updated on everything. Every ridiculous story she has been spreading. Every little dig she has been making behind my back. It is outrageous. She wants to make me look like the liar, when we all know what kind of person she is. My mother is not going to step in to set the record straight, I know that much. And honestly, I would not even bother asking her to. But I am not going to let this go. If she wants to drag my name through the mud, then I will make sure the people who really know her get to hear the truth. She thinks she can get away with this because she always has before. But not this time. I blocked her everywhere, but I still know plenty of her friends and co-workers. And I am going to make sure they know exactly what kind of person she is. Some might say it is petty. Some might say it is cruel. I do not care. She has never once cared about how her actions affected me. She has never cared about my feelings. So why should I care about hers? Even my husband agrees that I have every right to be angry. I spent years pushing down all the hurt, pretending it did not bother me. I let her walk all over me for so long that it was bound to come out in some way. And my husband is right, it is better that it happens now rather than later. My stepsister has spent years trying to push me for a reaction. Well, now she has got one. And it will not be pretty. Update 4. Well, I did it. I put everything out there for the world to see. I posted the full truth about my stepsister, every rotten thing she had done to me over the years, backed up with proof. I had saved plenty of old messages, including texts from my ex and even some smug, taunting messages from my stepsister herself. There was no way she could deny any of it. I posted it yesterday, and within hours, my phone was blowing up. I expected my relatives to react, but what I did not expect was to start hearing from my stepsister's coworkers and acquaintances. Turns out, I am not the only one she has treated like garbage. I got messages from people who had worked with her, and their stories were unbelievable. Apparently, she is known for flirting with every man in the office, regardless of whether they are single or married. And she is just as nasty to women, talking badly behind their backs while pretending to be their friend. She has built quite the reputation for herself, and now that people have an excuse to talk, the stories just keep coming. So far, I have learned that she is not just a liar, she is also a shameless flirt, a two-faced gossip, and an all-around terrible person. And she is furious that I went public with it. She has been trying to reach me non-stop. Since I blocked her everywhere, she has resorted to making fake accounts just to send me threats, trying to scare me into taking the post down. But I am not scared of her. And the post is staying up. I am sure she has already reported it, and maybe social media will take it down eventually, but I am not deleting anything. My mother, of course, is also mad. She has been telling me I should have handled things like an adult and that I have embarrassed myself more than I embarrassed my stepsister. She says my stepfather is furious too. Apparently, this whole thing has made him look bad in front of his friends, and he is not happy about it. Now they are demanding that I issue a public apology, delete my post, and pretend like none of this ever happened. And if I refuse, they say they will cut me out of their lives completely. They even threaten to leave everything to my stepsister in their will. It is honestly hilarious that they think that will work. I cut them off first. I could not care less about what my stepfather thinks of me. And as for the inheritance, I do not need it. My husband and I make more than enough money on our own. Besides, when my real father passed away, he left me more than enough to take care of myself. So they can take their money and give it to their perfect little daughter. I am done with all of them. Update 5. It has been 2 days since I posted everything. And I never expected things to escalate the way they have. First of all, my parents actually cut me off. When my mother realized I was not going to take my post down, she tried to guilt-trip me, saying it was not worth losing my relationship with them just to get revenge on my stepsister. I reminded her that we hardly had a relationship to begin with. And if exposing the truth meant cutting ties with them for good, I was more than okay with that. That led to a nasty argument, which ended with her blocking me everywhere, just like I had blocked her first. Did it hurt? A little. But mostly, I felt relieved. Then, yesterday, I got an update from one of my relatives. My stepsister's marriage is over. At first, I did not understand what had changed overnight. But after digging around, I found out exactly what happened. One of my stepsister's male co-workers saw my post and decided to send her husband a message. He sent him screenshots of conversations where she had been blatantly flirting with him. Her husband saw the messages, confronted her, and they had a huge fight. Now, he is filing for divorce. Not only that, but he is also fighting for full custody of their son. Honestly, I feel bad for the kid. He is the only one in this situation who did not deserve any of this. But my stepsister and her husband? They are finally facing the consequences of what they did. I have removed myself from the situation completely. I do not want to be involved in their mess anymore. And my stepsister must have finally realized that she cannot win this one because she has gone completely silent. It is kind of surreal. One simple decision to expose the truth about her led to her losing everything, her marriage, her reputation, and possibly even her child. And yet, I do not feel the slightest bit guilty. She did this to herself. From what I have heard, she has moved back in with my parents. She is also facing backlash at work. People are talking, and it sounds like she might have to quit soon. Honestly, I could not be more relieved. With her out of the picture, I can finally move on with my life. And to make sure I put as much distance as possible between myself and this entire mess, my husband and I decided to leave for our honeymoon early. We are taking a trip across Europe, and I cannot wait. For the first time in years, I finally feel free. I am leaving all the family drama behind me, and I am going to enjoy my life the way I deserve to. And when I come back, I will be a better, lighter, and completely unbothered person. Truth is, now that I have cut them off, I already feel so much lighter.